This is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex C.
Okay, here we go. It is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C, a sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. Let's get right to it. There's a lot of things to get into today, but I got a couple of questions that have come back. Again, always asking Yay or Nay questions up on our Twitter page. The address to our Twitter page, at Yay or Nay Podcast. Here's one. Would the Patriots and the Bucks be a good Super Bowl? Me personally, I'm going to answer that question before I give you the results. Absolutely not. Can you say the most boring Super Bowl in the world would be the Buccaneers and the Patriots? Plus, Buccaneers aren't going to make the Super Bowl, do not have a chance to make the Super Bowl. Absolutely, positively, unequivocally will not make the Super Bowl. But anyways, because the, national media wants it to happen and they keep talking about it so much, I asked the question, and 60% of the people said nay, they would not like to see the Patriots and Bucks because it would not be a good Super Bowl. Absolutely, positively agree with that. All right, the other question, are rookie quarterbacks doomed because they're going to bad teams? 60% of the people that voted said yay, they are doomed. I'd have to agree. I think a lot of guys' careers get cut short because they end up going to the wrong team. And because they go to the wrong team, they don't get the opportunities that they should get. People don't believe in them very long. They get 2 seasons, 1 season. Some get 3 seasons. But after that, they're either a backup for life or they're out of the league. So I say that it absolutely dooms a player, forcing them to have to go play for a bad organization and a bad team, because let's face it, that's why they're getting a first-round draft pick to begin with, is because they're a bad organization and a bad team. And they can be a bad team for a variety of reasons. Again, could be the organization, could be the general manager, could be the coaching. But the bottom line is you are hindering the ability of a quarterback to do well when they're having to go play for a bad team and a bad organization. Now, with that being said, a lot of things to get into. Let's start with this, though, the obvious, what we do each and every Monday. Let's talk about results from yesterday's games, and we got a lot of results to get into because we're also going to talk about college football a little bit. Definitely a big, exciting weekend in college football, but let's start with the NFL. So the Colts and the Texans. Look, this was a no-brainer. I said on the Friday show, I believe it was, that, look, this is a no-brainer game. It's not going to be much of a contest, and it wasn't. The Colts blew up the Texans 31-0. No surprise there. Here was the surprise. I did not call this an upset special. To be honest, I had to pinch myself even today just to see if it was true. Vikings lost to the lowly Lions 29-27. Again, lowly Lions, not meant to be an insult, but it is where they currently sit, right? No wins. Really not looking good for them to get a win. Matter of fact, they were probably on their way to having a perfect season, only not the perfect season you would normally want. They were going to have a perfect season of never winning a game. But they end up beating the Vikings last second play. It was a good play. Defense actually is questionable in regards to what the Vikings were trying to do. But the bottom line is the Lions beat the Vikings, get victory number 1, 29-27. Look, I've been saying it all year long. The Vikings play hard for the coach. They believe in the coach. I believe in the coach. I think he's doing a great job. I think his staff's doing a great job. They're a couple of good drafts away from being viable. Maybe, because I'm assuming, and I don't know, that they got some cap space available. Maybe they just need to go to free agency, grab some free agents. Maybe they're better off doing that, bringing in some veterans with some veteran attitude. I don't know. But whatever their identity is going to be, they need to figure it out, and they need to start to figure it out, and they need to start to show you what it's going to be in this offseason. But again, congratulations, Detroit Lions, 29-27. You got your first victory. Dolphins and the Giants, a no-brainer here, 20-9. Here is one thing I do want to talk about, though. So Tua Tagovailoa, everybody in the national media has written this guy off. They're basically writing him off, saying he's done. He can't get it done. He's no good. Keyshawn Johnson, Colin Cowherd, all these guys talking about it's time to move on from Tua. Look, he hasn't had enough time. He hasn't had enough snaps. He's been injured. He's been dealing with some injuries. That's part of the game. And he hasn't been so injured that it's really been like he's missing half a season or anything along that lines, but he's had some injuries. He's suffered through them. Look, Tua is way more of a complete quarterback than most quarterbacks that come into the NFL. I watched the game where he took over and won the national championship, and I was like, wow. And that was as a freshman. And I was like, wow, this kid's going to be something. And I still believe it to this day. The Dolphins last year at the end of the season started to win games. Tua started to play great. This year, again, we're not even towards the end of the season necessarily. We've got 5 weeks left. He's already, 4 weeks in of playing great ball. Dolphins looking good. Guess what? Tua Tagovailoa is playing well. The two go hand in hand. Tua plays well. Dolphins do well. Coaching, I'm still on the fence in regards to whether the Dolphins have it right in regards to the coach, but I definitely think they got it right in regards to Tua. And if I were the general manager or I were the owner, I would make a coaching change before I made a change in regards to who my quarterback's going to be. You have the quarterback. You got to shore up that defense. You got to get some running backs. You need some skilled wide receivers who can get yards after the catch. You need to shore up that offensive line. You got a lot of work to do. And it all falls on the general manager to do his job. Tua, if you can keep him straight up, will do what you need him to do. He's done it so far, as long as you keep him standing and as long as he's healthy. And I think that writing him off is a mistake. How many times have we seen a quarterback get moved on, sent somewhere else, and all of a sudden they have success? Is it really because of the system of the new coach? Is that really the reason why they have success? Or is it that the team they were with before didn't believe in them enough, didn't give them all the weapons that they needed, didn't shore up an offensive line like they needed them to, and then they go to an organization where they do exactly those things, and then the quarterback does what he would have done anyways? I think that happens more often than not. I think it would be a mistake to move off of Tua. He is better than most people think, and you don't win in the NFL if you're not good. Tua's winning with no offensive line, no receivers for weapons, no real running back room, a defense that is kind of hit and miss because you can't really jump up and down because the New York Giants only scored 9 points because, again, it is only the New York Giants. So I think that writing off Tua is a mistake. I would definitely argue that with Keyshawn Johnson and the rest of these national guys who say that Tua's done, he's over, he's overrated. No, he's not. He is a lot better than these guys realize. And at the end of the day, whether Tua's playing quarterback for Miami or he gets shipped off somewhere else next week or next year or next month, whenever he gets shipped off, he's going to do well wherever he lands if he's not in Miami opening day next season. All right, Buccaneers, Falcons, a no-brainer. I love how everybody tries to tell you how great Tom Brady is. He's the greatest of all time. He's so perfect. He has the weakest schedules in the NFL, and he has had the weakest schedules in the NFL his entire career. He went from a division where he's battled Miami, wow, Buffalo, wow, New York Jets, wow, what a tough division. 6 easy wins a year. You only had to figure out how to win 4 more, and you're in the playoffs. He went from that to, wow, you play the Falcons twice. You play the Saints twice. I mean, you don't have a tough division, again, for Tom Brady. Beats up on the Falcons. Everybody's talking him up. He's an MVP. No, an MVP quarterback is a quarterback that wins you games you shouldn't be winning, that does things that no one else can do. You can't tell me Tom Brady is a better quarterback when you got another guy in Baltimore that has no business winning football games, and yet him and his team continue to find ways to win. That is what valuable is. Valuable is a quarterback that wins you games you shouldn't be winning. You have no business even being in those games, and yet he continuously and constantly puts you in positions to win, and he puts your players in positions to be successful. That is what a valuable player does. Tom Brady doesn't do any of those things. He's always got to be surrounded by stars. He's always got to have wide receivers. Randy Moss. The list goes on and on. He's never been without receivers. He's never been without running backs. He's never been without a defense on the other side of the ball that can make stops, get interceptions, and keep him in a short field. Tom Brady is not the reason why the system, and again, I use the word the system in New England worked, because if it wasn't for the system in New England, you wouldn't be having Mac Jones having immediate success in New England because the system works. Cam Newton, before he caught COVID, he was winning. So the system in New England works. And now he bounced over to Tampa Bay. And what are they doing? When they originally were having problems last year, it's because, Bruce Arians wanted you to play Bruce Arians ball. But what are they doing now? Well, if you notice, if you look, if you pay attention, they're playing system football. Very similar system to what Tom Brady's always played. That's what the argument was. The argument was, let me do what I do. That's why him and Bruce butted heads for so long. And then finally, Bruce Arians let him go. And now they play New England system ball in Tampa Bay. But that system still requires Tom Brady to have receivers, running backs, and a defense on the other side of the ball that can make stops and keep the field short by getting turnovers. And that's what Tampa Bay does. And it also requires somebody like Tom Brady to be able to play at least 6 games in a division against a bunch of weak teams so he doesn't have to struggle and figure out how to win games all year long. Meanwhile, Baltimore has a quarterback that's winning games, again, that they have no business winning, that they have no business competing in, and yet Lamar Jackson makes it happen all year long with, 17 people on the injured reserve list. Their secondary room is completely out and down. Nobody in their running back room. Wide receivers are back, but not healthy. And actually, I don't even believe they're all back. Only one of their big name receivers is back. Tight end room is hurt. Offensive line is hurt. And yet he's still finding ways to keep them competing and to win. So when people say Tom Brady is the most valuable player in the NFL, no, he's not. He's on a loaded team with a good coach in a very weak division. And you got Lamar Jackson in Baltimore in a tough division with missing more than 17 players that are actively injured. And yet he still finds ways to win games. And most of those guys that are injured, again, are his offensive weapons, wide receivers, running backs, offensive line, things you need to be successful on offense. And yet Lamar Jackson still makes it happen and Baltimore still wins. So Tom Brady, most valuable player? No, not even close. He's not even close to being at the level of Lamar Jackson. All right, moving away from the Buccaneers, let's go to the Eagles. You got the Eagles, you got the Jets. This one was Gardner Minshew doing his thing, 33-18. Look, Gardner's good. Again, another quarterback. Here's an example. This goes back to what I was talking about in the very beginning when you talk about the Miami's Dolphins quarterback, Tua, right? I said, what happens? People move off quarterbacks too fast. They don't have the right coach. Maybe they don't have the right general manager. Maybe they don't have the right ownership, but they end up moving off the quarterback. They blame the quarterback when it's not the quarterback. It didn't take a genius to figure out that Gardner Minshew is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he is. And currently he's a backup to Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, which is a mistake because, again, Gardner Minshew in reality is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and hopefully somebody figures that out in the offseason and picks him up because otherwise the Eagles are loaded with Jalen Hurts as a starter and Gardner as a backup. You could reverse the roles and you're still going to be in good spot. And I'm just telling you right now, it's a mistake, an absolute mistake for people to sleep on Gardner Minshew. And yesterday's game showed you because, again, Gardner, 33. Yes, Gardner, I'm giving him all the credit. Gardner, 33, and the Jets, 18. That's how that went down yesterday. This is a perfect example of why you don't get rid of quarterbacks too early. Tua, he could be in the same position as Gardner Minshew, undeservedly so, if Miami makes a mistake of jumping off of Tua. All right, Cardinals, Bears, look. Kyler looked bad. He looked bad yesterday. I don't care what anybody says. National media is going to try to feed you a bunch of garbage about how great he looked, what a great job he did coming back after being out a couple of weeks. First of all, it's the lowly Bears. Secondly, the defense did, again, all the work. Turnovers, short field. Look at the stats. I don't have them in front of me, but I can just tell you, if you don't believe me, look at the stats for Kyler Murray yesterday. He was below average. And if you especially go up against what he's supposed to be and what he should be doing, he was below, not average. He was below average. That's bad. That's not good. You should never be below average. And he was below average. Again, I will give you some leeway because you're coming off an injury. It makes sense to give you some leeway because you're coming off an injury. The problem is, if you're coming off an injury, okay, then you would expect to be average, or you would expect to show some rust in the beginning and then watch the quarterback progress as the game goes on. That didn't happen with Kyler. Not only did that not happen with Kyler, I watched him get chased down by middle linebackers, and Kyler looked slow. He couldn't outrun him. He couldn't get away from him. He couldn't juke him. He couldn't do anything. He looked like a pedestrian quarterback just running to the sideline and praying and hoping that he could get to the sideline before they could lay the hit on him. He was slow, and he couldn't juke him, and he didn't look good. His passes weren't crisp. I said this before they made the decision, wasn't a good idea to put Kyler on the field. Either A, he wasn't ready, or B, like most mobile quarterbacks, once they get injured, you just see a big drop in their ability. I don't know which one it is for Kyler, but I was not impressed in that 33-22 victory over the Bears yesterday. Chargers, Bengals, another conversation everybody's having. Everybody wants to rant and rave. Again, you got Colin Cowherd, you got Keyshawn Johnson, you got all these people, Greeny and everybody screaming, Justin Herbert, Justin Herbert, Justin Herbert. Look, folks, he is an average quarterback. He is good, but good means you have to supply weapons. If you don't supply the weapons, you can't put a team on a good quarterback's shoulders and expect them to win games. And he's not able to do it. Without his stars, he's been pedestrian all season long. When he's fully loaded and when he's got participation from the running game, then the Chargers can be something. But again, they're a hit and miss team. They're not consistent. He's not consistent because, again, he's good, not great. Why everybody keeps saying how great he is, I don't know. Makes no sense to me at all. He is good, not great. And you can't put the team on the shoulders and expect wins because I've seen enough to know that it's not happening. It's not going to happen. He can't do it because he's good, not great. Why everybody keeps doing this big debate between him and Burrow is another interesting thing to me. Look, I don't know why everybody wants to, mow down Joe Burrow and talk about him as if he's not good enough to hold a candle to Herbert. Burrow's a better quarterback, and he has shown that he's growing each and every week. Justin Herbert, really? I think he's hit his ceiling right here, right now. I think we've seen the best that Justin Herbert has to offer. Joe Burrow, still growing, still getting better, still has some growing pains to go through. And it's only, season number 2. And I would imagine season 3 and season 4 is going to be where we're really going to get an outbreak from him. And even though we don't have an outbreak from him as of yet, the Bengals are already winning, already in playoff contention. Chargers are in playoff contention as well, except again, they are inconsistent. This game, the Bengals losing, is not a bad game to lose because it's against a team that probably will make the playoffs. You can lose those kind of games. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing shameful in that. Nobody wins every game. It is 2 teams on the field. Somebody has to lose. Bengals losing is okay. But because the Bengals lose doesn't mean that Joe Burrow is not as good as Justin Herbert, even though the national media guys want to sit there and try and tell you how it does mean that. And it doesn't. Again, watch. Chargers, they do this all the time. They've been doing it all season. They won this game against the Bengals. Watch how poorly they're going to play this upcoming Sunday. They've been doing it all season long. All season long, if there's any kind of consistency for the Chargers, that's what it is. They win a game you don't necessarily expect them to win because I expected the Bengals to win. And in all rights, the Bengals should have won. But watch, when the Chargers win a game like this, watch what happens the following week. And then you hear noisy crickets. Nobody says nothing about Herbert. And if they do, they still talk positively as if he's the best thing since sliced bread. And again, he's not. Chargers beat beat the Bengals 41-22. No, it does not solidify the fact that Herbert is better than Burrow. Not at all. Jaguars, Rams wasn't even a game. Never was going to be a game. Never expected it to be a game. Rams took care of business, 37-7 over the Jaguars. Washington, Raiders. Here's another one. And I'm going to do this tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a side-by-side between Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys. Because I could easily make the argument, you got a bunch of yay-sayers out there talking about how Dallas is the best team in football. They're the best team in the NFL. They're guaranteed to win the NFC East. My argument is no. Why? Washington, unlike Dallas, has won games against teams that are better than the games that the Cowboys have won. But again, we'll do that comparison tomorrow. I'm not going to have enough time to do that today, but we're going to do that. But just to, give you a little taste of what I'm talking about, wasn't these very same Raiders the team that the Cowboys played on Thanksgiving and the Cowboys lost to? But yet Washington just beat the Raiders. But yet you got Keyshawn Johnson, Greeny, Colin Cowherd, all the Cowboy homers that are running around screaming Cowboys, Cowboys, Cowboys all the time. What wasn't it those guys screaming that the Cowboys are the best team, but yet their team got their butts kicked by the Raiders and Washington just beat the Raiders? I'm a little confused. But again, they keep coming up with excuses. Oh, well, Dak, he was missing weapons. Oh, well, Dak was injured. Oh, they were missing 5 coaches. Okay, you were missing 5 insignificant coaches. Let's be a little on the realistic side. Those guys that are, offensive lineman coaches and special team assistants and all, they don't get in people's earpieces on Sunday and tell them what plays to make or how to play, or they don't do any of that stuff. They're not making in-game adjustments so that you can be successful. That's not what they do. That doesn't happen. They're not the offensive coordinator. They're not the defensive coordinator. And they're not the head coach. And they're not the guys that are up in the box. So for you missing coaches, which sometimes could be a big deal, sometimes not, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal when you're missing a bunch of insignificant coaches. But again, they want to make excuses for the Cowboys all the time. It's what they do. It's who they are. But I mean, the head coach missing, yeah, maybe that's kind of something. But again, as they make excuses, I show you the nay side of it. Because they say, yay, that's an excuse and it's a viable excuse. I say, really? Well, then can you explain to me how Cliff Kingsbury was missing for the Cardinals game and the Cardinals still won? And Cliff Kingsbury, by the way, on the game that the Cardinals played without their starting, coach, their head coach, the man, the myth, the current legend for the Arizona Cardinals, he didn't even watch the game. So not only was he not on the sidelines, he was at home and he wasn't even watching the football game. And yet his team still won. But the Cowboys, they lose. It's an excuse. Oh, it's an excuse. You can't win without your head coach. You can't win missing coaches on the sidelines. Cardinals just did it. Just like you can't win without Dak Prescott. Oh, Cardinals won without Kyler Murray. Ravens won without Lamar Jackson. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Teams do it all the time. But yet they come up with all these excuses. And then when other teams have that same problem, then these same homers will sit there and say, oh, no, that's not a good excuse. Oh, you can't say that. But when it comes to their team that they're a homer for, oh, well, yeah, they were missing coaches. They're missing players. They're missing linemen. Oh, garbage. Raiders got beat up by Washington, the very same team that beat up the alleged best team in the NFL, according to Keyshawn Johnson and Greeny and Cowherd and all the rest of those, people who know so much at ESPN. So, yeah, it's going to be, I can't wait. When this season's over and I'm proven right and they're all proven wrong, I'm going to love it. All right, speaking of the Ravens, I've been talking a lot about them. They lost a tough one yesterday. A lot of people questioning the call of Harbaugh. Look, I don't understand what you're questioning here. If you know your secondary is down, out, injured, and you have nobody else to put on the field, of course you're going to take a shot at winning. And if you don't, oh, well, you live to fight another day. Why are you going to tie a game and then put your team on defense with nobody to play in the secondary? Why would you do that? I mean, that's dumb. And they were really, really close, like inches close to that throw being where it needed to be so they could actually make that catch and get the winning score and win the game. It was close. It didn't happen. It didn't work. But I don't understand where the criticism comes from because, again, Harbaugh made the right call. You have nobody to play in the secondary. You became injured. You lost all your guys who could possibly play in the secondary. If you got nobody to play defense, why make the game go on and put yourself in a position where you could injure another player? That makes no sense. Harbaugh made the right decision. I don't know why people are complaining, but then again, people just like to complain. That's kind of what they like to do. But the reality is it was the right call. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Harbaugh made the right call. It was live or die time. Let's go home. I'm not going to injure anybody else, and I have nobody to play in the secondary. 49ers Seahawks. Here we go. Another frustrating game. This is yet one of, and I've been doing this all season long, where I highlight a game where the referees determine the momentum of a game and who's going to win the game. Look, and here's the simplicity of it. And I'm not the only one. I just want to make sure I get this out there. I'm not the only one who says this and think this, by the way. As I've told you before, for those of you who've been following this podcast for a while, I do rideshare. I work at a radio station. I deal with people all the time, sports fans, relatives. I'm talking to people about sports all the time. It's what I do. Everybody says the same thing I say. I am not exclusive to this alleged conspiracy theory. This is not a conspiracy theory. Again, this is yet another perfect example of why referees need to be reprimanded and the NFL needs to take this more serious. Look, the only reason why the NFL, let's be real, again, I live in reality, because you're going to get guys, especially like Colin Cowherd, who are going to say, oh, you people on the interweb are just complaining and talking about nothing, and it doesn't matter because if people really felt the way that you say they feel, they wouldn't be watching the games. Okay, that's his weak argument. And again, the argument's weak. Why? Because I'm going to hit the home run right here, right now, because it's real simple. The only reason why the NFL hasn't taken ratings hits for a lot of these things that have happened in regards to bad calls, bad officiating, people who are starting to believe that Vegas has more of a hold on the NFL than what they say. And I'm not saying that the Vegas thing is real. I'm saying some things that other people say, because my argument is not the Vegas thing. My argument is referees making calls, determining momentum, and in a lot of instances, determining who wins the game. But some people will go as far as to say, well, the reason why they're doing that is because of Vegas. I'm not going that far. I'm not saying that. But here's the thing. The reason why the NFL has not taken a rating hit with these things that have happened and with the players that have done egregious things that they shouldn't even be allowed to play in the NFL for, Antonio Brown and others. But the reason why they haven't taken a ratings hit is because of the fact that you can gamble in most states on football. And because Vegas has always been in existence, so you can gamble on football anyway. So it is the gambling that makes it to where people still watch the games. People are interested in the games. It is fantasy football, the creation and the continued growth of fantasy football that makes it to where people watch the games anyway, pay attention. Because when you got a shot to win money, people are all in. Money makes the world go round. Money makes people do things that they wouldn't normally do. And when you talk about fantasy football, when you talk about gambling, that's going to overcome a lot. And that's the luxury that the NFL is enjoying right here, right now. That is fact, not fiction. That is reality. They are enjoying the luxury of gambling and fantasy football as a means to be able to continue to be able to enjoy ratings and growth, even though there are a lot of things that need to be changed and the NFL is slow or is overlooking, like the referees. Now let's get back to this game. 49ers Seahawks. So 49ers manhandling the Seahawks in complete control. All of a sudden, towards the end of the second quarter, all of a sudden, all these penalties mysteriously, miraculously start to get called on the 49ers, stopping drives and extending drives for the Seahawks when the 49ers have them stopped. But here's the kicker, and they do it all the way through the rest of the game. So from, I believe it was the 5-minute mark maybe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was the 5-minute mark where all this started in the second quarter with 5 minutes remaining. And it went from there all the way to the end of the game. But here's the mysterious part. So that gives momentum to Seattle going into halftime, and then it carried in to the second half. However, here's the thing about it. Isn't it amazing that when the penalties were called against 49ers, it was always called when it was going to be fourth down and the Seahawks were going to have to punt. Yet the Seahawks got drives extended because of these penalties. The penalties weren't happening on first down. The penalties weren't happening on second down. The penalties only came in when it was going to be fourth down, and then these miracle penalties came into existence. And then the 49ers, after getting big first downs, would all of a sudden get these miraculous holding calls that would now make it 1st and 20 so that they would be able to help stall drives because the Seahawks couldn't stop the 49ers. But with the help of penalties, they were able to. So isn't it amazing how there were no penalties being called against the Seahawks? And I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I probably should have looked them up, but it doesn't matter. I watched the game from whistle to whistle, start to end. There were no penalties on the Seahawks, and yet all the penalties were big ones, and they were always extending drives for the Seahawks, always making it to where they can go down the field and score, and then they were stopping drives for the 49ers, giving them 1st and 20s, 1st and 25s. Isn't it amazing how that works? Isn't it amazing? And yet people want to sit there and say that referees don't matter, referees don't determine momentum, and referees don't determine who wins games. And even though all that was going against the 49ers, they still had a last-second shot to tie the game, and it just didn't work out. Seahawks made a stop. Credit the Seahawks defense for doing that, but doesn't matter. That opportunity for the Seahawks to win would have never existed if it wasn't for the interference of the referees. I've done this on other games. It's not just 49er games. I've been doing this all season long in regards to my podcast and showing where the referees are determining winners and losers of games and momentum of games. And the 49ers game yesterday against the Seahawks was yet another example of how referees implement themselves into the games and determine winners and determine momentum. It's got to stop. The NFL's got to do something about it. It's egregious. These referees should be getting either fired, fined, suspended, told they're never going to be a ref in the playoffs or the Super Bowl if it doesn't stop. But they got to figure out a way to reprimand these crews that do this very, very pathetic job of reffing football games. All right, Broncos Chiefs. Another one. This is a big one. Patrick Mahomes. Again, let's go back to the national media guys. Colin Cowherd, Keyshawn Johnson. Really, we'll take Colin Cowherd out of this one. He's a little more realistic than Keyshawn Johnson and those guys are. So, Keyshawn. Greeny, you know what, is also a little more realistic. So, really, it's just Keyshawn. Maybe Keyshawn's out on an island on this one. And there are others, too, because there are a lot of, Patrick Mahomes homers, let's be honest. But the bottom line is this. Kansas City Chiefs are winning because of defense and defense only. It's not the offense. They're not back. They're not what you thought they were going to be this year. They're not what you've seen in previous seasons. The Chiefs are winning for one reason only, and it is defense. That's it. And it's not even the defense. They play against bad teams, and they play against teams who don't have necessarily really what should be a starting quarterback, i.e. the Denver Broncos. Their Achilles heel is they can't get the quarterback position right, and that's the reason why they lost last night. If it wasn't for that, they probably should have won. But, they didn't have a quarterback. That was the problem. You're going up against a weak defense in the Kansas City Chiefs, and I still believe they're weak. They're definitely not strong. They're improved from what they were, but they're still not strong. They still can't stop a real team. They would have got blown away if it would have been Aaron Rodgers playing for the Packers, but it wasn't. It was Jordan Love, and because of that is why they beat the Packers. If it would have been Aaron Rodgers, it would have been a blowout Packers over the Chiefs, and this win streak wouldn't be what it is for the Chiefs right now today. So, Broncos, No real starting quarterback. They're going to have to yet again try and do something in the offseason to try and make that happen. But the bottom line is, for all the talk from all the Patrick Mahomes homers that keep talking about how he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL, and they put him in this elite bucket and talk about him being no touchdowns in the last 2 games. 0 touchdowns thrown in the last 2 games. That offense looks absolutely pathetic. They can't move the ball. They can't score. The defense, I believe, last night got 3 or 4 turnovers. If it wasn't for that, Kansas City would have got nothing done. Folks, Patrick Mahomes, people figured him out. His sloppy 50-50 balls that he just throws up in the air and hopes his receiver makes the catch isn't working anymore. Defenses know to look for it. They turn around faster. They defend better. It's easier. He's predictable. He's going to throw it up in the air. He's going to throw it in double coverage, triple coverage. He doesn't care. He's just going to throw it, and he's going to hope his receiver comes down with it. And they're not, because defenses are looking for it now. His mechanics are bad, but they were always bad. Eyes closed, just throwing the ball, putting a prayer up in the air, hoping his guy gets a 50-50 ball. That's it. That's what he's done for years. It's not working anymore. Over the top ain't working. Everybody's playing too deep, so he can't go over the top anymore. And dink and dunk, he's just not athletic enough of a quarterback to be able to do it, because he's not a pocket passer. It's his Achilles heel. So because he's not a pocket passer, he's not crisp. He's not clean. He can't make good throws. He can only throw long, sloppy balls because he's got a big arm, but he needs receivers. And here's the key. He needs receivers that can go over the top, and he doesn't have those kind of caliber of receivers to do that. That's why the Chiefs are having a problem. But the number one problem out of everything I just listed, it all comes down to one guy and one guy only, Patrick Mahomes. I said this once. I've said it 1,000 times. You find out how good your quarterback is once you pay him, because once you pay him, you can no longer afford the luxury wide receivers, the running back room, to pay offensive linemen, to pay defensive linemen, secondary stars, all those stars. You can't afford to pay them anymore. Once you max contract a quarterback, you can no longer pay that kind of money to those other players. They all leave. They got to go somewhere. They got to make their living. They got to get their cheddar. It's their time too. It's not only about the quarterback. But in a salary cap league, when you pay a quarterback, that creates problems. And now, when that happens, that's when a team ends up relying on the quarterback more, basically being put on that quarterback's shoulders, and they either can or they cannot deliver. And Patrick Mahomes is yet another quarterback, when you put a team on his shoulders, that cannot deliver. Sorry, folks, but the jury's in on this one. And the jury says Patrick Mahomes is yet another quarterback that can't deliver. And I'll go one further on you. If I were the general manager of a team, and I believe, and I know, think about it this way. What I'm going to tell you I would do, if you think about it, it's already been done. Not to the extreme that I would do it, but if you think about it, it's already been done. And I'll tell you what that example is in a minute. But let me tell you how I would do this. If I were the general manager of a team, I would keep it simple. I'm going to get rookie quarterbacks. I'm going to bring them in. And as soon as that rookie contract is up and it's time to give them a big extension, have a nice day. Hope you enjoyed playing for me. There's going to be somebody else, I'm sure, that's willing to pay you the money. Good luck to you. I'll give you a great resume. A great recommendation with your resume is what I should say. But I'm not paying you. Have a nice day. And I'm going to move on to the next rookie. And then I'm going to bring in that rookie. And then when his contract comes up and it's time to pay him, have a nice day. You got some good tape. Show it to everybody. Somebody's going to want you. And I'm going to win that way because I'm going to be able to afford top-notch wide receivers. I'm going to be able to afford top-notch running backs. I'm going to be able to afford top front line. That's what you need, offense and defense. You need linemen on the front ends. You need trenches. You got to win in the trenches. That's where games get won and lost, is in the trenches. I want to pay my guys in the trenches. I want to pay my wide receivers. I want to reward my running backs. They're the workhorses. They do most of the work. They're the ones that ultimately put the points on the board. The ball's just delivered by the quarterback, but he's not the one putting in all the work. So I want to reward the guys that put in all the work, especially when the quarterbacks, without these guys, 9 times out of 10, Aaron Rodgers is probably the one guy who doesn't fall into this category, but 9 times out of 10, the quarterback can't put it into just any wide receiver's hands and make something happen. And running backs can't be effective if they don't have a quarterback who can deliver on the long ball or the short ball or be accurate and crisp and do something with the passing game, because they both go hand in hand. They both complement each other. So I need the guy who can do those things with top-notch receivers, top-notch running back, top-notch guys in the trenches on the offensive line, so that I can go ahead and get some good results. But I can't do that if I can't afford to pay none of those guys, because I'm wasting all my money on one guy, a quarterback, and he's only one guy. And he's not a guy that can carry the team and get you to the promised land without all those top-line guys. Again, i.e., perfect example. Look at who we're talking about a moment ago. Kansas City Chief quarterback. He can't do it without top-notch receivers, without a top-notch running back room, without a front line that can block and give him time to pass. Patrick Mahomes can't do it. So why is anybody else going to be able to do it? It's simple. It's smart. And again, it's not something that I'm thinking of that is new or unheard of, because to a point, this is what was done over the last 20 years in New England. They never paid Tom Brady max contract money. Tom Brady on his own left the money on the table, but why? Because he knew that he's not good enough to carry a team, that he had to have top-notch wide receivers that they could pay, that he had to have guys on that front line that could block, and they needed to get paid to do it, that he needed running backs, that he needed people on the defensive side of the ball, secondary and the front seven, that were good enough to make stops and continue to give him the ball back, because he wasn't going to be efficient in regards to scoring every drive. And because of that, he was going to need to get more possessions so he could have more opportunities. And to do that, he had to leave money on the table so they could pay more people. Bill Belichick's been doing this forever. So I'm just going to the extreme with it, and that's what I would do. But Bill Belichick's been doing this forever. This isn't unheard of. This isn't brand new. Not at all. Bill Belichick's been doing it. Tom Brady allotted it, and it worked. And it's working again because he's got a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and he was able to go to the free agency market and get some players and pay some guys on the offensive line, defense as well, and he's not in a salary cap problem, and he doesn't have to worry about paying his quarterback anytime soon because he's on a rookie contract, and they're winning. Russell Wilson, when he was on his rookie contract in Seattle, they were winning. Pay Russell Wilson. What happened? They went down. They haven't been back to Super Bowl. They haven't been back. It's not the way it works. It's just not. Once you pay a quarterback and you max contract them, you're limiting yourself in regards to what you can do with the rest of the team. Fact, not fiction. Tonight's game, Patriots, Bills, going to be a good one. I am picking the Patriots. I believe the Patriots will win. They're the better team. They're better coached. I have not been a believer in the Bills all year long. And you know what? Tonight's going to prove me right because the Bills are not that good. I'm tired of hearing about this great vaunted defense of the Buffalo Bills. They're not good. They're not a great defense at all. They're average. They're not below average. They're not above average. They're average. But why these guys keep talking them up, why they keep talking up Josh Allen, he's not a great quarterback. Again, another guy overpaid and under-delivering. And you're going to see some of that under-delivering tonight in the game against the Patriots. All right, so real quick, let's go over a couple other things really fast because I kind of went a lot longer on the NFL than I planned on it. So Miami Hurricanes, moving over to college football really quickly, they fired their head coach, Manny Diaz. Says after weeks of speculation, and a lot of people did speculate, this conversation has been going on for a while, Miami finally fired Manny Diaz on Monday after 3 years on the job. The decision came after numerous reports indicated that the school was making a significant offer to lure Oregon coach Mario Cristobal back to Miami. And the rumor is that Manny Diaz was on a recruiting trip when he found out that he was getting let go. But he was out there recruiting like nothing was wrong. he didn't believe the rumors or didn't know the rumors. I don't know. But the story is he was unaware of what was going on, and Mario Cristobal gets hired, and now Manny is out. But, I mean, he's going to find a job. Manny's good. He's got a good resume. So, I mean, it's not like he's not going to be able to find a job. He is. All right, here's another one. Again, sticking with college football for the moment. Oklahoma, they did finalize their deal to hire Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables. Players were the ones, as the story goes, that determined who the head coach was going to be. Former players, current players, they all loved him. They all liked him. And to everybody in the sports world, they believed it was a no-brainer to make this decision. It says Oklahoma officials are scheduled to arrive in Clemson, which they did on Sunday afternoon. They did finalize the deal, again, with defensive coordinator Brent Venables. And now we're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see. I'm not done talking about Oklahoma football yet either. Lane Kiffin, I want to talk about that again. I believe I brought it up on Friday a little bit in regards to Lane Kiffin and why he left. But now, national media really starting to harp on it, that he left because he did not want to go and battle with the SEC. It was easier to go to the weak Pac-12, worry about winning some Rose Bowls, not have to worry about anything. You know, all that national college championship talk, USC, folks, no Pac-12 team is going to go and win the national championship. You're not going to be able to convince the best players in the country, which are in the South, to go play ball at USC. If it was able to be done, I've said this 100 times before, there would have been a name brand coach that would have already taken the job at USC and would have already done it. And the reason why they haven't done it is because they know that all the recruiting for all the best players belongs to the SEC. The best recruiting belongs to the SEC because all the best players are in the region of the SEC. They're not going to go play for a Pac-12 school. They're not. Maybe every now and then he'll get a great quarterback. Maybe every now and then he'll get a great transfer. But he's never going to get a Georgia or an Alabama roster. It's not going to happen. Again, congratulations. Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables is now officially the coach for the Oklahoma Sooners. All right. Now, speaking again, college football, staying with it. Alabama, no surprise. Michigan, Georgia, Cincinnati, they're all in the college playoff. This is how it's going to work. Two SEC teams and the first group of 5 team in the history of college football playoff will play for the national title. Alabama, Michigan, number 2, Georgia, number 3, Cincinnati, number 4. That's pretty much kind of how I would have done it, maybe. In all honesty, though, I get it. Alabama beat Georgia, but I still, in my opinion, no, it's not a bias because I'm a Harbaugh fan, but I think Michigan, in all reality, should be number 1. But I'm not mad that they're number 2, but I think Michigan should be number 1. Let me read a little bit more to you. All right, so Alabama's going to face Cincinnati in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, and Michigan will face Georgia in the Capital Orange Bowl. Both are happening on New Year's Eve, and then the winners will play in the national championship. That, of course, is going to take place January 10th. Look, for all the doubters of Harbaugh, I'm going to say this now. For all the doubters of Harbaugh that have said he's never going to beat Ohio State, he's never going to win a Big Ten championship, he's never going to beat Michigan State. Okay, he didn't beat Michigan State, but he did beat Ohio State. He did go and beat up on Iowa and win the Big Ten championship. And now, and here's the kicker, and now I believe there is an upset brewing. I think Michigan can beat Georgia, and I'll tell you why. It's the same reason why, and I don't know if I said this on the podcast or not. I did say this to a bunch of people before the game took place. Alabama, I thought, would beat Georgia, and it's for the same reason that I'm going to say Michigan is going to beat Georgia, because everybody wants to talk about Georgia and that defense. If you notice, when anybody brings up Georgia, all they talk about is the defense. Makes a lot of sense. Defense pretty good. And again, notice how I said defense is pretty good. They're not great. They don't play against a bunch of great teams. The SEC this year was a little weaker than most years, and there has not really been anybody to challenge Georgia on the offensive side of the ball. So that defense gets a lot more credit than it deserves. Michigan is well coached, and there's the kicker. They're well coached. these guys, in all reality, Michigan, are outplaying what they really should be able to do. And the reason why they're playing above their skill set is because of the coaching. Harbaugh's made changes. It's obvious. He has really settled in as a coach in college where, let's face it, that's where he grew anyways. That's where he's done well. The question is, can he now bring it to the NFL level? But does he even want to? Maybe he has no intentions at all of leaving Michigan. But the bottom line on this deal is he's coaching his butt off. He's doing a great job, and he's making players outplay their actual skill sets. And if he continues to do it and gets them ready for this game against Georgia in the same way he's been prepping them all year long, they are going to beat Georgia. Because Georgia's defense, while again it's good, the Achilles heel is that offense. First of all, that offense has never been high-powered. Yeah, they put points on people, but against weak teams. But when they played good teams, they didn't necessarily throw up a lot of points. It was a defensive struggle, and they were low-scoring games that people were betting on Vegas on the under because they knew that Georgia would hold them defensively and they wouldn't put up a lot of points because Georgia's not a high-scoring team unless, again, they're playing against a small little school like Tulane or Rice or whoever it was they faced in their season. But believe me, there were a lot of games that Georgia played that were against very low-caliber teams. So Georgia's offense has never been high-powered, and now I believe they're going to have to go to one of their backup quarterbacks, which isn't that big of a deal. Still a top quarterback in the collegiate level. And it's not like they're inexperienced at all. And it's not like they don't have enough time to practice and get ready for Michigan. So Georgia's not a high-powered offense. They never have been a high-powered offense. They rely on their defense. And I think the coaching of Michigan is going to outcoach the coaches of Georgia. And Michigan players are going to, again, raise their level of play, and they're going to upset Georgia. I think Alabama's going to destroy Cincinnati. Cincinnati didn't deserve to be here and doesn't deserve to be there. And it's going to get proven that they don't deserve to be there when they get blown up by Alabama. But I believe that Michigan's going to upset Georgia, and I believe the game on January 10th is going to consist of Alabama versus Michigan. And I'll reserve a later date to tell you who I think is going to win that game. First, we got to get through these ones anyway, and I think Michigan beats Georgia. All right, that's really all I have the time for today. I did have some other stuff I wanted to talk about, but we'll get into it all tomorrow. You guys enjoyed tonight's game between the Bills and the Patriots, and we will talk tomorrow.